John, how did the first one go?
Yeah, we had to get the thing in there now, and the 2 hours wasn't a problem.
You feeling okay? Good. All right, we're ready? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We are going to call the public meeting for August 12th, 2014 to order. The first item is the agenda itself. I will accept a motion to accept the agenda as presented. It is moved by Councillor Wall, seconded by Deputy Mayor Locke. Are there any additions to the agenda at this point? I see none. There are none here, so I'm assuming there are none. All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. First item on the agenda would be the minutes and action report for the meeting of July 29th. Entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Moved by Councillor Aker. It is seconded by Councillor Ledwell. Are there any errors or omissions in the minutes from July 29th? Just errors and omissions? Anything at all that anyone has reviewed? Okay. Did everybody review the minutes?
Why? Do you see a glaring?
No. But I'll test you one day.
I didn't see it.
It's got to be there. If there is one, it would stick out. Okay, no errors or omissions. All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. Business arising from the minutes. If there's an item not being referenced in today's meeting, would you please refer to the agenda number attached if there's any business arising from the minutes of the last meeting? Any at all? None whatsoever. We are going to go back then and move on. After that, Council, we have no proclamations or presentations today or correspondence to table with Council. We will move directly to committee reports, the first being our Community Services Committee. Deputy Mayor Locke, if you would, the floor is yours.
You're right, Your Worship. We are sort of whipping through this today, aren't we? Like knife through hot butter.
See, you did it. Now you've jinxed us.
Oh, you did that earlier.
We weren't in session.
Although I thought we were fired up. Miss Lewis said we were fired up.
I'm being very technical, but we weren't in session when I made those comments, right, about time. Anyway, go for it, sir. Okay.
It's cramped up.
The back went again already?
All right, sorry.
Well, yesterday, though, he was feeling so great. His back is so improved.
Yesterday he's bragging about his medication.
Yeah.
I took it off schedule today.
All right. You go right ahead.
All right, first, Your Worship, Arts in the Park. I was down. Anyone else go down to the event last week?
No, I wasn't here.
So I went down to the first session, which would have been not last night, the week before. And say again? Yes. And it wasn't a big crowd down there, but they had some improv down there, and the three members in the improv, they were fantastic. You know, the young kids from Mount Pearl, and they did an amazing job down here. And then we had some people doing crafts with for blowing bubbles and stuff like that. We had some little treats here. So and we had two young girls perform on guitar. They did a great job singing and playing in that. So I'm going to suggest we probably had 20, 25 people here. So you know, throughout the evening, people dropped in and left, and so on and so forth. So it was a great event. Then, of course, last night they got rained out, so I think they moved in.
They moved inside.
Moved inside last evening. So this is just a note that for Monday, August the 18th, the last Arts in the Park series for the summer is going to take place next Monday at 7 p.m. in Centennial Park, again just outside here in City Hall in the gazebo area. And it's coordinated through the Association for the Arts in Mount Pearl, in partnership with Community Services. So any information that people would like to attain, they can get at www.amp.ca. And again, it's a great initiative, and hopefully the weather cooperates and more people come out to this, because it's a nice venue for the kiddies to display their talent. Yes. The next item, Your Worship, for information is the movie in the park. That's going to take place this Thursday, August 14th. The weather forecast, I think the showers are starting to lessen. I think it was 40% showers I heard for Thursday. So let's hope the weather cooperates, because we always get a great turnout there if the weather cooperates. Again, it'll be in Centennial Park, outside next to City Hall. They're starting at 8:30. This year the film is Despicable Me 2, and admission is a non-perishable food item. People are encouraged to bring their chairs and blankets, because it tends to get a little cooler this time of the year in the evenings. and it's going to be, the movie will be shown on Friday, August 15th, if the weather doesn't cooperate. Now, last year we offered popcorn and treats, the same sort of deal. Just to note that there will be
Same thing is on again, and
Yep.
it's going to start at 8:30. That's dusk, right? That's
Yeah.
that's pretty well when it begins.
So that's for information purposes. The next item, Your Worship, is the Powers Pond outdoor program. Just an update on the usage stats, and usage is way up this year. A lot of participation in using our kayak and our canoes up there, probably related to the great July that we've had
Yes.
in terms of weather-wise. Typically, I think we're getting 25 to 30 people, but some evenings we got up to 90, close to 100 people using these boats. So it's a great initiative up there. I've received a dozen people or so commenting on it's a great activity. They love the fountain up there, so they're really pleased with the whole Powers Pond facility up there. And we're looking to perhaps expand next year with some rowboats and other opportunities up there. We'll see how things go. Some swan boats, and just to remind people, when they're underwater, to be safe, we provide lifeguards or, I guess, monitors up there with your life vests and stuff like that. So that's it's been a great success. So just encourage people to get out to that as well.
Can I speak to that?
Oh,
Sure.
Sure. Go right ahead, Councilor Tessier.
I walked around Powers Pond. Well, we do that fairly regularly, but one night I took a picture of the sign that says free kayaking on the specific days, and I put it on my Facebook page. And T.A. Loeffler, who is a very well-known outdoor adventurer in our province and certainly in the country, actually picked it up and shared it and commented and commended Mount Pearl in her own social media for offering this service to our residents. And I thought that was a really, really neat thing, and I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention.
That is neat. That's great.
Speaking of signage, another resident did indicate that he bike rides in the area, and he just made a suggestion that maybe we could get more signage up.
Yeah.
Like on the main
Absolutely.
thoroughfares, on Ruth Avenue, just to let people know that it is ongoing, because I'm not sure how many people know. And I said to him, well, we put it on our website, we got it in our activity guide, we speak to it on, public council and stuff like that. And he said, well, a bit of signage might help as well, when it is ongoing, and maybe that's something we could look at. By the schools are coming up along Ruth Avenue to the radio station, the new building. Yep, that we'll speak to now. Yep. Good stuff. So that's for information purposes, Your Worship. The next one is the progress update on the Mount Pearl Summit Centre. As we know, the past number of months, our staff have been working hard trying to get this open, have the finishing touches done, and we're hoping to open very soon to the public. September 2nd is our official ribbon cutting up at the Summit Centre. And then I think the 6th and 7th, that Saturday and Sunday, will be the official opening for residents and visitors and neighbours to come and enjoy. The following items are almost complete. Wayfinding signage for inside the new complex. The final branding of the clothing for our staff, our TV monitoring stations. Finalizing the furniture and fitness equipment installation. The pool score clock is going to be installed. And as well the installation of a new radio station called Peak Radio, just to name a few. And that will be an ongoing sort of playing of messages about programs and activities that are taking place in the new Summit Centre, as well as some music in between there. And while we're speaking of the Summit Centre, I just want to draw attention to the activity guide, I think, that all council received on their desks. Very sharp looking, a nice picture of our new Summit Centre on the front here, and a lot of activity. So details to the new aquatic programs, new Summit Centre inside. Aquatic program registration starts on page 7 if the council just wanted to have a quick look at it. And some of the programs there, the registration and the cost of the programs. Trying to find it now because I was delighted to see, oh yes, on page 5 here, the memberships and the like, and the names for all the different membership packages. So you can get a Pinnacle, which is a comprehensive, all-inclusive membership package. The next one is called the Elevation membership. There's a Base Camp membership. There's an Orienteering membership. So nice, but what caught my eye was on page 6 is the Turn Fit and the Turn Recreational Adult and the Turn Rec Youth membership. Just to point out that all these are related to mountain questions, and I can,
It's becoming quite evident that you're using your influence as the chair of this committee
I had
to
no,
get this stuff slipped in.
I had nothing to do
so
with
we
it,
won't
Your
notice
Worship.
it.
Nothing to do with
Mr.
it.
Collins, are you accepting blame for letting him do this?
I usually take the heat, Your Worship, but I can honestly say this time around, I was pleasantly surprised when I looked in the program.
He held his.
Are going to say there's a spelling error in the
Just trying
guide.
to make it happen.
Yeah. I think a whole bunch of people are going to say there's a spelling error. In the, in the guide you got.
Either darn or turn.
Yeah. It's
He,
supposed to be turn fit, isn't it?
He held his breath. He held his breath until he turned Mount Pearl blue.
Yeah.
Or yarn fit or something. Anyways,
So anyway,
I actually like it because it makes me happy that we didn't name the whole complex.
right. Yeah. Anyways,
I guess we need a motion to approve that name, do we?
I second it.
so actually it's $50 a month, but it covers everything, right? It's access to everything.
Yeah.
Including the glacial lake.
Yeah, the Glacier Lake. So, like I said, all the programs are there, and as we said before, I think our residents are going to be quite pleased when our new facility opens with all the new programs and equipment that's up there. So they're all outlined here. Just to note, Your Worship, that this is going to be delivered to all households in Mount Pearl by the end of this week.
Yep.
So all residents can look at this by week's end, and of course it will be put up on our website and that. And that's it for us, Your Worship. Thank you.
Everybody will have a turn looking at it.
What's that?
Everybody will have a turn.
Everyone will have a turn looking at. Okay.
Oh my!
Yeah. Oh my! It kind of fits it.
Even like I don't mind.
We're going to do corporate services. Councillor Aker, if you can get over them.
Let's move on. 3 items for the for council consideration today, Your Worship, from corporate services. The first is a tender for courier services. This is not a big expenditure which the city has, but it likes to go out and test the market, I guess, every so many years. And we're recommending, based on the an RFP that was done, we're recommending that the lowest compliant bidder, which is Millennium Express, and will cover the period 2014 to 2019, be awarded our contract for courier services, and I so move.
It is moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Question or comment? Is this traditional for us, Councillor, to do this for 5 years?
5 years, I believe, has been in the past.
That's
a
standard,
cycle.
is it, for us? Because that seems to be a long contract.
Generally speaking, though, the rates are set for the entire 5 years, essentially. So they I believe there's a slight increase with this contract. over the other one,
I'm
but
sure there is.
We're locked in. And basically, because you go with a longer period of time, you do tend to get a good bid for that period of
It's
time.
not a huge expenditure.
Adjusted for inflation, of course, right? Yeah.
So the last one would have been 2009,
No.
right? And then this one, 2014, okay?
Seems reasonable.
Questions or comments from anyone? No others? All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Second item is a request for tax consideration for a charitable organization located at 785 Topsail Road, and we're asking that the business tax be exempted for the year 2014, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Questions? All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
And lastly, we have 11 rather large invoices for approval at this meeting in the amount of $1,314,874.10, noting that $784,000 of that is paving. The August firefighting service with the St. John's Regional Fire Department totals $359,000, and then some other bills that add up to something quite less than $200,000 makes up the total. And I'd like to move that we approve these 11 invoices.
Moved and seconded. Any question or comment on any of the invoices listed 1 to 11? Hearing none, we'll call it. All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. Thank you. Infrastructure and Public Works, Councillor Walsh.
Well, Your Worship, the community services people deal with kind of the program side of things. We deal with much more exciting things like water and heat exchangers and heat and pipes and all of those kinds of things.
Oh, Jerry loves
that
his
gets
pipes.
Mr. Rantle all excited. But we issued, as you know, substantial completion several weeks ago now, in conjunction with Marco. They've been doing tremendous work with their subcontractors as well. Now what we're trying to do is actually attend to some of the deficiency work, and literally dozens, if not hundreds, of minor outstanding deficiencies that need to be done that will allow us to open this beautiful facility in the first week of September. The fitness equipment and wayfinding signage, as Deputy Mayor Locke mentioned, is currently being installed, and that's we actually have a couple of rooms, as we're aware. I'm not going to betray any secrets here, that are being named in honor of a couple of very worthy residents. So that stuff is ongoing, and we're delighted that things seem to be progressing, on schedule again. Touch wood. Hopefully everything will go on schedule and continue to be so for the next several weeks. But they are busy, and there are a lot of subcontractors up there, and a lot of things can go wrong. Our hope every day is that things don't go wrong, and that all the deficiencies are being corrected, and we'll be ready to open on time. In terms of the second item, Your Worship, our roads work continues, and we continue to get a good uptake by request for bulk garbage, about 30 to 50 a week. That's very good, actually, and it does still free up some of our workers and equipment to do some of the other routine work that we.
So this is proven to be more efficient.
It
right?
is more efficient.
I know it's more effective for taxpayers. I think homeowners like this better.
Yeah, and it was the low peak in terms of the collection. The biggest uptake was early and late. So the people who need a collection are getting it. So there's really not much downside to it. There's an upside in terms of an appointment. You only put the bulk garbage out the night before you're actually being collected, and we're able to be there the next day because it's by appointment, whereas before it was literally out there for a full week or sometimes even into a second week. So it's worked well, and we're really pleased with it. It's still a project that we're continuing to look at through IPW, and we'll make a decision whether it'll be continued or make a recommendation for whether it'll be continued for next year.
Interesting, but the uptake will be in the fall now. You'll have less items in the fall.
Well, or maybe you'll have more, but it won't take any more time, or it shouldn't, In terms of the parks work, the last time I outlined some neighborhood parks that have some equipment installations. Some of that has been installed. Some of it is still scheduled to be installed. I won't get into the detail of that. We just did complete some repairs at the dog park, and it was a section that was barricaded off to try to let the grass recoup and grow. And I just wanted to, if I could, throw out a little congratulatory note to the water and sewer people in particular. In anticipation of last week's storms, the UTM crews got out and were able to look at some of the typical drainage areas or problematic areas throughout the city, low points where flooding could occur, clearing catch basins and all those kinds of things. And I think that ounce of prevention certainly seems to have paid off. We didn't get 100 millimeters of rain. We got more like 50, but we had virtually no incidents, no need to call back additional workers. And I think a lot of it is because we're doing an increasingly better job in preparing for these weather events, storm weather events, than we used to in the past. The only other thing, Your Worship, is a motion to issue a contract to Callaway Construction for the cleaning services for the Summit Center. We have a beautiful new facility. We have to make sure that we take care of it. It doesn't come cheap. The contract is $124,968.73. We had 2 bids, and I move that it be awarded to Callaway, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded. Comments, questions from anyone? All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Thank you. That's it for IPW. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Planning and Development, Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our first item this evening is a pre-application inquiry. It's regarding 16 to 24 Glendale Avenue. We've received an inquiry from 2 companies, Lat 49 and Gibraltar, and they're proposing or considering the development of a residential apartment development at that particular site. They're considering developing a 3-story condominium apartment building. It would have apartments geared towards adult living. Now, the subject property is located in 3 designations currently: commercial, residential, and rural. So to accommodate the development, if it comes down the pipe, a plan amendment would likely have to occur. Now, before all of that happens, of course, this is going to be an intensification of the property. So based upon the guidelines upon which we're now considering these types of applications, a land use impact assessment report is going to be required as part of the process here. So, that being said, we're presenting this evening in the kits the draft terms of reference for this particular land use impact assessment. Certainly a very important document when it comes to reviewing this particular application, given that we are in a residential neighborhood over on Glendale Avenue, and this is an intensification of that area. So this evening, the recommendation from the Planning and Development Committee is that we approve the terms of reference for the land use impact assessment for 16 to 24 Glendale Avenue, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded by Councillor Walsh.
Yep.
Any question or comment? So this is another 3-story apartment building,
It is just a preliminary
This is just-
requirement,
but that's the intent?
That's the intent, yes.
beautiful.
It's a large piece of land, indeed.
All those in favor?
All right.
Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
Okay, moving right along, Your Worship, we have a ratification and confirmation of an order. This is regarding the property of 42 First Street. You'll see there the order is attached in the kit. It is regarding a heat pump which has been installed in the side yard of the property. You recall, of course, that Council did in fact amend our regulations regarding the installations of heat pumps and air conditioners and the like. That was back on August 24th of 2012. We approved those particular regulations, and the installation of this particular heat pump in the side yard is against and contrary to those particular regulations. In addition, there was no permit that was obtained for the installation of the heat pump in question. There was a site inspection on June 26th of 2014. A deficiency notice was issued that the heat pump was contrary to the regulations, and a follow-up visit was arranged for July 3rd. There have been a couple of such follow-up visits, and the heat pump currently has not been moved. So most recently, an order has been issued to remove the heat pump, and it is the recommendation of the committee that we ratify and confirm the issuance of this particular order to the property owner of 42 First Street, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded. Comments? Question? Councillor Stiles?
I just had a question, wondering if the heat pump was put in. I was just wondering if the heat pump was put in before regulations was actually in place. And my understanding that it was. I'm just wondering if that's the case.
Mr. Yefchak.
I could.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I
Councillor
could
Walsh
just,
can answer. Go
I
ahead.
just reply to what I raised this yesterday, and I know you weren't there. We discussed it. The permit for the house was actually issued prior to the heat pump regulations being in place. And there were a couple of other things that we mentioned in a meeting yesterday, but the bottom line is the regulations still should apply to the property and to the dwelling regarding the heat pump. And of course, a permit should have been obtained to install the heat pump as well. So that's the answer.
Even before we had regulations on heat pumps, I'm just wondering that question.
He never ever had, if the question is, was the heat pump where it was located approved? And then we changed the regulations and now we're going retroactive? The answer to that is no.
Okay.
The heat pump was never a part of the original approval of the building of the home. That's correct? Okay.
That's correct.
There was never an application, I think it's fair to say, to install the heat pump either, right?
No, there wasn't.
No, there wasn't, Your Worship. We did not receive an application for a permit, and this particular heat pump was installed after the regulations had been amended.
Yeah. We have the call, a question on that. All those in favor? Contrary-minded. Motion carried.
Our next item, Your Worship, is another draft terms of reference for a land use impact assessment. This time we're speaking of a proposed hotel and condominium development. This is at 43 and 53 Greenwood Crescent. The developer in this case is proposing to consider a hotel and condominium development. You'll see that, of course, this is a land use impact assessment will deal with the density of the project, its location on Greenwood Crescent, and of course we'll be talking about an increase in traffic and perhaps some extra shadowing that will result from this particular development. So again, as part of the process that we go through with these particular developments, we will be asking the proponent or the proposer to put together a land use impact assessment.
And this is the what is now the Greenwood Motel.
That's correct, Your Worship.
That's going to come down.
That is the plan.
That's the plan if it goes ahead, and
In the
there'll be a
second
new
phase,
hotel
yes.
go there.
New hotel will go there, and the condominium condominium phase will happen after that.
Talk about your beautiful piece of property.
Yeah. I got
Okay. Anyway, have you made your motion?
I don't believe I have.
All right,
Is that
carry
it?
on.
The Planning and Development Committee recommends that the draft terms of reference for the land use impact assessment for 43 and 53 Greenwood Crescent be approved, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded. Okay, Councillor Stoyles.
I just have a question on this as well. That intersection is a very dangerous intersection, and that hotel, I know, has been there forever, but it was never known as a busy hotel because, you know, it
Yeah.
didn't have that many rooms. Now it's going to be, especially for the people coming out, and I've used that intersection a number of times, as I guess many of us have, especially coming in and out of Knights of Columbus, which is down further down Greenwood Crescent. And I'm just very concerned when you say that they're going to do a study on the property and everything. I'm just wanting to make sure that they will do a comprehensive study on when you leave that development, because there's going to be massive traffic, I would imagine, coming out of that.
I wouldn't say massive, but
Well, it's going to be an
there's
awful
going to
lot
be 40
more.
or there's going to be 40 or 50 hotel rooms
But when
there, and
you
if they were all full, you can assume most of them would have a vehicle, so 30 to 40 additional
And when you
vehicles
come
to
out of
what's
Greenwood
there.
Crescent now, I don't even know, I know it's a stop sign to go on the Topsail Road, but when you come out of Greenwood Crescent, I don't think that there's actually a stop sign prior to the hotel, and I think we really need to look at that, because I just think it's potential for a dangerous intersection in that area.
I believe
And-
without the hotel, you're already right. Greenwood, the actual intersection at Greenwood requires upgrading, and it
Definitely.
requires to be turned into a more modern intersection. There's no doubt.
So I think we
trying to
really-
turn left coming off Greenwood, for example, is a real challenge, and the actual traffic movement is not very well delineated there.
If I
So,
could just
so
make a
I would
comment.
agree with you on that. I don't know whether that falls under the LUIA.
I'm just
though.
wondering
Well,
if we make sure-
I think what we would be doing, we have, as you know, Your Worship, already approved a very comprehensive traffic study. And both the proposed developments that were just discussed today, which is Glendale Avenue, we all know that there's already
We got an
restricted
issue
parking
there, too.
So
Yeah.
that would be looked at, as well as this intersection just down from Mary Queen, the World Church, and into the Greenwood property. I mean, these would be a couple of the major areas that would be looked at in that comprehensive traffic study. I think that costs us over $100,000, isn't it?
We haven't issued the RFP yet.
Yeah, but we're anticipating that, you know, that's going to be, it's a citywide study, and that's my point. So,
But surely we wouldn't hold up this application
no, we
until
wouldn't.
we wait
And,
for that study.
and don't forget that this is just a preliminary land use
Yeah.
impact assessment study, and we would mention that in the public consultation component of that we're undertaking as citywide, and we would have to make sure that mitigation efforts for traffic are put
Well, I
in place
just think that-
in those areas.
Yeah, I just think we all have to recognize that both Glendale and Greenwood
And several others.
but these two, if we're going to put new developments on them, a comprehensive means of changing how traffic moves there, I think, is critical. Before I go to Stefan, I'm looking to you. Should I go to him first?
Perhaps. Yeah.
Okay. I am going to say Councillor Yevchek. Director Yevchek.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you again for the elevation.
I don't know. It may
But
be a
in,
demotion.
But in both cases of the land use impact assessment, they do reference analysis of traffic, access and traffic generation and impact. And in this one in particular, item 1A3 talks about analysis of existing and proposed locations for access to the proposed development and the street network improvements, changes that may be required, more specifically to the realignment, improvement, and if required, traffic signalization of the intersection of Greenwood Crescent and Topsail Road. So for this development, the land use impact assessment will actually take a look at what traffic that will generate at that development and how will that impact that assessment.
That's
for
good.
That intersection. Likewise, in the Glendale one, it references in that land use impact assessment, it references Glendale and Commonwealth Avenue, it references First Street and Ruth. Yeah. So it takes a look at those considerations with respect to the development proposal at hand. And what it will do, as we go through the process, it will supplement the larger traffic study that the city will be doing. It'll be more information to go into that whole study. But in the meantime, if that comprehensive study isn't done, we'll have the wherewithal to say this intersection needs to be improved this way to accommodate this development.
Okay, that is exactly, I think, what I'm looking. I think it's what Councillor Stiles was looking for as well. Exactly that. You want to close debate on this then,
Yes.
Councillor Ledwell?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just sort of wanted to build on exactly what Councillor Yepchek. You've got me doing it now too. My esteemed colleague over here. I just wanted to add that Council recalled the development, or the proposed development, I should say, that was discussed recently, the current Irving site at 22 to 24 Commonwealth Avenue. And we did, of course, ask the proponent there to put in place a land use impact assessment study. And part of that whole report that came back out of that assessment, of course, related to access and egress on and off that site, traffic movements in the area. So, yeah, I just sort of wanted to reassure Council that there is certainly a traffic component to both of these land use impact assessments.
Thank you, sir. We'll call the question. All in favour? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Moving right along, Your Worship. The next item we have is, of course, the proposed building extension at 16 Mount Carson Avenue. Of course, we know this is Hillcrest Estates, the retirement home on Mount Carson. They're proposing currently to construct a building extension with a gross floor area of 8,360 square feet. It's to the eastern portion of the existing building at 16 Mount Carson. Now, the current licensed capacity of the facility is 70 beds, but they're proposing to put on this extension and increase the capacity by 20 beds to a total licensed capacity of 90. Now, the proponent is also proposing to relocate an accessory building on the site, which already exists, so just going to move that a bit further to the east. Now, as part of this development, there are 20 additional parking spaces that are proposed, so that means that, of course, the proposed extension will certainly accommodate the required parking spaces as per the city's regulations. Now, the site, of course, is bordered to the north by the rear yards on Dunluce Crescent, and bordered to the south by the rear yards of Mount Carson Place. To that effect, a notice was issued to 241 property and business owners within a 150-meter radius of the property. A notice of the application was advertised in the Telegram on June 14, 2014. We did receive one response to the, notification of the particular extension. However, the individual who did respond to the call for representations indicated that he would not be attending the briefing session, so the briefing session that was scheduled for the July 2nd evening was cancelled. Now, the one written representation that we did receive, there was some concern there regarding the runoff of stormwater. Apparently, when the initial complex at the Hillcrest Estates was constructed, there was some additional water runoff into the backyards of the property owners on Mount Carson Place. However, of course, the respondent was encouraged and assured that in this particular case we would require a grading plan and a drainage plan be put in place so that we would be able to avoid the particular water runoff into his backyard and the others on Mount Carson Place. Of course, this is all consistent with the city's zero net runoff policy. So we're going to make that a condition of the permit so that will alleviate the concerns of this particular resident and all of his neighbors in the area. So that all being said, as you can see the other conditions in the report, but providing that all of these conditions are met, the Planning and Development Committee recommends that the application by Mount Carson Manor Incorporated proposing to construct a building extension consisting of a gross floor area of 8,360 square feet to the eastern portion of the existing building at 16 Mount Carson Avenue for the purpose of increasing their current licensed capacity of 70 beds to 90 beds be approved and a development permit be issued under the following conditions, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded. Question or comment, everybody? Anyone?
Absolutely.
We will call it. All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Next item, Your Worship, is an application to widen the driveway at 30 Michener Avenue. This is one of my neighbors. Certainly up on Michener Avenue, as you know, there are row dwellings that are in place along this particular side of the street with the even-numbered houses. There are 3 blocks of row dwellings, as a matter of fact, totaling 26 units. As we're all aware, there are no parking along the street, along that section of Michener Avenue. And really, there's not a lot of parking to begin with, because, of course, there's some narrow driveways there. This particular property owner is proposing to extend their driveway by 2.2 meters and therefore allow for parking for a second vehicle on the property. Now, of course, normally the city would require a 50% landscaped portion of the front yard, but in this particular case, given the current existing development pattern in the area, you'll note that there are a number of driveways that have been widened, some that I'd venture to say even may not even have any landscaped part of their front yard. We don't see it. We discussed this in committee, and we don't see this as something that we should be turning down, providing that they're going to continue to keep the 0.6 meter wide grass buffer zone that will be requested. We would recommend that the driveway be allowed to be extended by 2.2 meters, allowing for double parking at 30 Michener Avenue, and that we approve it with the particular condition of the 0.6 meter wide grass buffer zone, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded. Question or comment?
Comment, Your Worship.
Deputy Mayor?
I know in other cases we turned down requests to extend their driveways. I'm thinking one up on Seabright Place at Munden Drive. And I was just thinking that this seems, contrary to what we've done in the past. But I just wanted to highlight the point that, with the row dwellings, it's a different circumstance. And I know our proposal or our change to any new row houses, I think one of the things we were looking at, Director Yevchek, was to have the parking in behind. So we wouldn't permit such developments now where they're parked all. I mean, the reality is that when these were built, 30 years ago, most residents had only one vehicle. So there was adequate parking right there. But the fact now that many houses in Mount Pearl have 2 and 3 and 4 vehicles, that there's a need for people in these houses to extend their driveways. So I just wanted to highlight that, while it seems like a discrepancy, we sort of go case by case, and the row houses are a little different in this. And we have to use, and it is.
In this case, there are already 3 or 4 that were very similar that were approved.
Absolutely. And I know some
Are
years
these
back.
condos?
Some years back, we also looked at a similar situation up on Farrell Drive, where again, all those houses up there were paved, and the concern at the time was, well, we didn't want it to look like a massive parking lot up there, but this is keeping a little strip of grass in between, so it'll maintain some of the green space there. So I just wanted to highlight, some of the decisions that we made. The expansion?
I think
Yeah.
so. Same kind of circumstance.
Thank you, Your Worship.
All right, we'll call it. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Next up, Your Worship, we have a cease and desist order. This is for Country Ribbon at 1273 Topsail Road. A building permit was prepared on July 12, 2013 to enlarge an existing maintenance shop and an electrical room at Country Ribbon. Now, on August 20th of 2013, that permit was picked up by the applicant. There was some time when there was no communication between the city and the applicant, but a final inspection was requested. Now, during that final inspection, it was determined that the fireproofing work at the particular location had not been completed. Now, of course, that having the fireproofing work not completed is in violation of the National Fire Code of Canada and the National Building Code of Canada, and of course it presents a very serious danger should a fire ever start in the area. Now, after several attempts to contact the proponent here regarding the fireproofing work were not successful, it is the recommendation of the Planning and Development Committee that a cease and desist order be issued to the property owner of 1273 Topsail Road in relation to the business Country Ribbon, which is operating in violation of the National Fire Code and the National Building Code of Canada, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Question or comment? All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
Moving right along, we have a notice of motion, which I'll read into the record. In accordance with Section 39 of the City of Mount Pearl Act, 1988, take notice that, in accordance with Council's public notification policy, I will, at a regular meeting of Council, move an amendment to the text of the Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010 that, if enacted, will amend Regulation 8.20.4, changeable message signs of the Mount Pearl Development Regulations, to add conditions that reduce the maximum illumination level of these signs between sunrise and sunset. The purpose of this amendment is to regulate the brightness of changeable message signs in order to minimize, especially at night, distractions to drivers, safety hazards, nuisance to residents, and negative effects on the look, character, and quality of areas visible to the public.
Should be sunset to sunrise. Should they be reversed?
Between sunrise and sunset. So, that is correct. You are that is correct. Yeah, we'll have to alter that.
Hey, good wordsmithing there, Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
Very illuminating.
Thanks for shining. Thanks for shining a light on that, Deputy Mayor.
Okay. Enough of this frivolity. Very illuminating, bright guy. Where are they going next? Come on, sunshine.
We're going. We're going next, Your Worship, to the development permit list, July 28th to August 8th. You'll see the four permits there, and I'd like to move those.
Development permit list, 4 there, moved and seconded. All in favor? Contrary minded, carried.
Another 2 quick ones, Your Worship. But we have our building construction permitting totals for the residential side of things, July 28th to August 8th.
Still a lot of houses being built, eh?
Well, actually, most of these, I think, are to do with renovations, outside work, fences and patios and that sort of thing.
I'm looking at Finley Stone Drive, single dwelling, accessory.
You'll see a few of them there. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. There's still a lot of renovations there, though. In any case, the total for the period is $1,705,030, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Okay, Finley Stone Drive, someone's putting in a hot tub. That's where we're heading later.
Sounds good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried.
And finally, Your Worship, to conclude the planning, we have the building construction totals for the same period. You see there are a couple of projects totaling up to $275,000, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried. Thank you, sir. No Regional Services and Environment report today. Transportation and Public Safety Committee. Councillor Tessier.
That was an enlightening conversation, I have to say.
Oh, did you work for that one?
Listen, I came up with Bright too, and I'm
You did?
tapped
Well, that's
out
true.
now.
That's true.
I'm tapped out.
Councillor Walsh is usually our pun king.
Yeah, I'm tapped
Light
out.
is
Yeah,
extinguished.
it's burnt out. Burnt out. Okay. Very short agenda item today.
Okay.
For the information of our public, new speed radar signs have been installed around the city. We talked about these about a month ago. They're installed on Richard Nolan Drive. There's 2 on Michener Avenue, Baffin Drive, and Smallwood Drive. So we're requesting, of course, that for the safety of our residents, that everybody certainly adhere to the speed limits. You know, these are great indicators of the speed you're traveling. We see them around in our school zones now. They really do force you to slow down. Our municipal enforcement were consulted, and they had a hand in where these signs were placed as well, in conjunction with crosswalks, allowing for appropriate slowing down and stopping if required as well for crosswalk placements.
Good reminders, aren't
They really are. And again, once again, I will say, because I'm not sure that still if people really understand, if they flash, you are speeding. If they don't flash, it doesn't mean they're broken. It means that you're actually adhering to the speed limit.
Yeah,
But if they
that kind of
flash, you're
fools me
speeding.
too. Maybe
Yes.
maybe we should set them up differently so that you see your speed anyway.
No, I think this is actually a much better way, because if they don't flash, you're doing something good.
Yeah,
If
but
they-
everybody thinks they're broken, and then the next
No,
time
they
they go by,
don't.
they step on the gas to see if they can turn the thing on.
No. More bees.
The problem is the mayor hasn't seen one not flash yet.
No, it's very, very important. And now, of course, this is.
Yes, but I thought it was broken. I'm sorry, Councillor. We're interrupting you. Go ahead.
It's okay. We're heading into back to school as well, so it's very important that people are mindful. And these particular areas are areas that we've all received several complaints about. We know that they're hot spots when it comes to speeding. So we want people to adhere to the speed limits, to be more aware. These signs will do exactly that. So hopefully it becomes a habitual to actually not see them flash.
Let us hope so. Okay, that's all. That's everything. We are up to new business. Deputy Mayor.
Just one item for me, Your Worship. Last meeting, we did discuss the noise of some of the motorcycles and loud vehicles and stuff like that. And a resident, following that meeting, indicated, that he was interested to learn what council's position would be on that. But he also highlighted, I think he said it was out in Saskatchewan, if memory serves me correctly, that what they have out there is a decibel reader that will actually take a picture of your license plate. So if you exceed the noise level, and you can set it at whatever threshold you wish, that a picture is taken of your license plate and you're issued either a notice or a citation or a fine or what have you. So he asked if I'd bring it up to council. I promised him I would certainly mention it at our next public council meeting. So that's just food for thought, and maybe something that we can look at. I know our ability to issue tickets, because I know we discussed that here. Councillor Tessier was just talking about our traffic speed control signs. We did discuss the idea of photo radar, or taking pictures of people that speed in school zones and designated areas. But I think there was something with the legislation that we didn't have the authority to issue such tickets. Am I correct on that? That we had to have, that was a provincial authority. Right. So we and did we not bring it up at M&L at one point that we wanted that to be pursued? So I explained that to the gentleman, but he did express his concern with the loud vehicles, and he said, yes, motorcycles, but not just motorcycles. He said there's some of these hot rod cars and stuff like that race, and his particular location. It's on a bend in the road, and he said the cars have to slow down to go around the sharp bend, and then of course there's a straightaway afterwards. So that's when they lace on the throttle on their cycles or their cars. So, anyways, I thought it was interesting, and perhaps that
worth having committee research. I've never heard of such a thing for, noise.
Right, but he said it was a decibel reader that was connected to a camera that will. So anybody who breaks the noise bylaw will get a.
We don't have the authority to do it anyway.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, and
I'm not sure we would. Listen, let's investigate it.
Absolutely.
Why not?
So
obviously you set the thing up like a camera. If the noise goes up to a point that the camera snaps, I mean that's the idea, right?
Right. No different than when you break the speed limit.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm just thinking if we don't have the authority to do the first instance, we certainly wouldn't
Right.
have it in this.
But I'd be interested to follow up and see where that went, because I know we did bring it to M&L. Yep.
Councillor Aker.
I was going to say, we don't have the authority to issue tickets for photo radar or not photo, but decibels as well, right?
Right.
But at the same time, I guess what we're talking about is a decibel reader that an MEO could mount on his or her car, just like the radar is. The city can issue tickets for speeding based on radar, right? Moving violations. It's the picture that doesn't work, but why couldn't we still have the committee look at least installing them in the cars?
Sure.
Again, just to investigate it. Maybe we can't take it right to the extreme of doing the photos to actually capture the license plate, but an officer should be able to make note of who it is, just like issuing a speeding ticket.
Councillor Tessier, comment?
If this is something that has become a provincial-wide issue, and we've heard it before at the table at M&L, if we had that data, that would be a real great case for support. So if for no other reason than to have the information, we might do the readings and see that, there really isn't anything, particularly onerous, or we might see that there's a real issue.
Yep. Okay. That's it. Councillor Stoyles.
Just want to pass along my sympathies to the Denine family. Rick Denine passed away since our last meeting, and just wanted to pass along my sympathies.
Okay, thank you. Where am I going? Councillor Walsh.
I have nothing, Your Worship.
Councillor Tessier. Nothing at all. It's summertime in the city. Councillor Aker. Nothing, sir. Councillor Ledwell.
I too want to join Councillor Stoll just to issue my sympathies, I guess, and condolences to the Denine family. Certainly very sad news to hear of the passing of Rick, and certainly wish the family and friends of Mr. Denine all the best.
Yeah, just for clarify, Rick Denine was a local Mount Pearl businessman here, a younger brother, by the way. I think he was younger brother to former MHA, former mayor and MHA Dave Denine. And this was very sudden, which makes it all the more tragic, and absolutely our condolences to the family, no doubt about it. It's tragic, and he was what, just 57 or 58? 57 years old. I'm only going to bring up one item then under new business today, and it's in the guide. It's in the guide, which I'm really pleased about. It's in the guide. It's on page 18. Places you can paint. I'm still on my war against litter. By the way, I feel as if we have advanced the troops, that we are making progress in our war on litter. I think the city has been a little cleaner this year than pretty well any time. But then again, we haven't had the gulls and stuff. We're doing things in a pretty proactive way, so it's pretty good. But In December, we allocated money and a strategy to deal with some graffiti. And now we're up to the 12th of August. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. To quote as Lucy says sometimes, I'm just asking the question. Graffiti or art, the difference between art and graffiti. I love that we have this here, places you could paint. I think that's really, really a good idea. Do you think we could get one or two before the snow flies? That's all I'm asking.
I thought Councillor Jessie was painting.
She's offered to paint one, but we won't give her one to paint yet. We'll be back to you. And there, folks, is bureaucracy at work. We are going to call for an adjournment. Councillor Ledwell says let's give this up. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.